Hello my friends, welcome to a new video. I'm Jeanette with Vivo Vintage Designs, and apparently I have fall fever because I've been painting and drawing a lot of pumpkins. So in my last video I created a pumpkin using my dry palette, and today I'm going to show you how I created this adorable little card using alcohol ink markers, Micron pens, and a pencil. So this paper that I'm using to create these cards is really inexpensive. I think I got 50 sheets for about $12, and it's really nice and thick and creates really nice cards. It's not great for watercolor, but works wonderful for creating these cards. So all the links for the products that I'm using will be listed in the description box just below the video in case you're interested in purchasing this paper. So the first thing I did was cut down my paper to the size that I wanted. And then what I do is I fold it over and I just press it lightly. And then I use a ruler in that fold. I put it right up against that fold. And I use one of these dotting tools to create the crease so that it folds nicely. And I just score it lightly, making sure not to push too hard because I don't want to go through the paper, and that makes it fold really nicely. So now to create my pumpkin, I'm going to try and bring you a little bit closer because I really want you to see what I'm doing. Let's see, can I bring you? There you go. All right, so I have a pencil, and the first thing that I am going to do is draw kind of like an oval in the size that I want my pumpkin. Now I'm going to decide where I want my stem, and I'm going to draw another circle. And all these parts of the pumpkin, these sections, will come from that line. And that's how I get a really nice shaped pumpkin. So I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to bring my line down, and I want it to be wider at the bottom than the top. And there's my first section. And you continue filling in your pumpkin, making sure that all your lines come from that circle. And these are just the back of the pumpkin, which I want to show. And then I'm going to draw in my stem. And that's how I get a really nice shaped pumpkin. Now I'm going to use a Micron pen. This one is a 0.70 or a 12. And I'm going to go over those lines with the Micron pen. And you can see how nicely shaped that pumpkin turns out. And of course, if you want your pumpkin to be shorter, make your oval a little smaller or flatter. Or if you want your pumpkin tall and skinny, make your oval more vertical. So now that I've got my lines down, I'm going to use my kneaded eraser and I'm going to remove the pencil marks. Just give your pen a little time to dry because you can smudge it. And you can see I did a little bit up there because, of course, I'm impatient, but that's okay. I can go over those lines again, and the rest will be covered with the alcohol ink markers. So let me just go over some of these lines here that I smudged. Okay, so now we have our pumpkin, and I am going to use, I have these alcohol ink markers, and I have a variety of colors that I'm going to use because what I want to do, very much like in the other video I did with the dry palette, I want my colors to be patchy because that adds texture to the pumpkin. So now let me bring you out a little bit further so that I make sure that I am in frame rather. Well, all right, that's as good as it's going to get right now. So I want to keep some highlights because my shadow is going to be at the top and the bottom of the pumpkin. So I want to keep some highlights in the center portions, or rather in the center of these pumpkin sections. So I'm going to use, this is a light marker, a light orange color, and I'm going to first put in where I want my highlights to be. And nothing about this has to be exact. Have fun with it. You can see that, as in my previous video, I don't give too much thought to it. I just fill it in. I stay within the lines when I can, and if I don't, it's okay. Just makes it more interesting. Now I'm using a darker orange, and those are I'm going to keep the darker colors closer to the edge of each of the sections because I want to create a little shadow in there. And now I'm going to go over it again with this lighter orange. And just keep going over it with your colors until you find what you like, what suits you. So I'm just going to continue going over this and creating some lines to keep it interesting. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to take a brown marker and I'm going to fill in my stem. A nice dark brown. And now I'm using a 0.25 Micron pen, and I'm going to start creating those lines. They are, let me bring this close to you so you can see, they are these skippy, shaky little lines that create some nice detail and shadow in the pumpkin. So I'm going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to keep my lines going in the shape of each of the sections. So I want my lines to curve as I go up the pumpkin. And I'm concentrating lines up and down on the edge of each of these sections because that's where I want most of my shadow to appear, because I want it to look concaved. So you can see there's really nothing to this, just drawing some sketchy little lines and dots. But the lines are curving with the shape of the pumpkin. Okay, I'm going to continue filling this in, and I'll be back in a moment. All right, so I finished filling in my pumpkin with the little lines, and you can see that I've kept the shorter lines at the bottom and the top, and I've just run a few little lines around the sides to make it look a little more concaved and to enhance the shape of the pumpkin. Okay, so now that we have that, we are going to grab some green, and let me see, my favorite green, and we're going to create these little leaves. And I'm just going to draw the shape of a leaf. I'm not trying to be too perfect. I'm just scribbling, as you can see, and I think that this is what adds character to the painting or drawing, is the fact that it's easy and scribbly. Okay, so now I'm taking my 0.25 pen, Micron pen, and I'm going to connect these leaves with stems to the pumpkin. And then I'm going to outline them. And you can see that I'm not even trying to stay within the green. I'll put a few little veins in there. Make sure that they're all connected. All right, let me finish outlining these and I'll be back in a moment. Okay, so we have our leaves in, we've outlined them and put in a couple of little veins. Now we're going to use the same Micron pen and we're going to create those little curly cues that you see in pumpkin vines. And this is much easier to do with a Micron pen than it is with the paintbrush that you saw me use in my previous video. So I'm not going to overdo it, I'm just going to add a few of them and leave it alone. Now I'm taking my light gray alcohol ink marker and I'm using the broad side, and I'm just going to create a border. And I find that pulling the pen toward me helps me create a more straight line. Don't worry if it's not perfectly even. It's not supposed to be. Okay, so now I'm taking my the 0.70 Micron pen, the one with the thicker nib, and I'm going to outline that border that I just made. And then I created these little leaves in that border, as you can see here, and I did that really quickly. I didn't take too much time to do it. I just created 2 curves with a line in the middle. I wasn't too mindful about it. As you can see, this can go by pretty quickly. Just draw 2 curved lines with a line in the middle. And I made mine going in different directions. Each one is going in the opposite direction of the previous one, and it kind of looks like a V formation. So I'm going to fill that in, and I'll be right back. All right, so I've gone ahead and completed my border, and you can see that on just one side of each of the leaves I've drawn some veins, and then I filled in the background with the black, so only the gray shows in the leaves. And it turned out really cute, and now you have a card, a thank you card, or a card for any occasion. And these are really fun to create. I'm not one for buying cards at the store. I prefer to make my own. I always feel that it's so much more personal, and you give a little piece of yourself when you create a card for someone, and give them a little piece of your art. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do create one of these cards, I would love to see how you do. So please share your work with me on my Facebook page, Vivo Vintage Designs. You can drop a picture of your painting or card underneath the comment section for this video. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. Please don't forget to check out the description box for all the links and a list of all the products used. And if you would like to show your support for my channel, you can do that by giving me a thumbs up, leaving a comment, or perhaps subscribing if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.